this webinar session. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon. Hello and thank you for joining us. My name is Adam and I'll be moderating your webinar today. The Honorable Rector Balikpapan University, Dr. Candidate Susiswo S.H.M.H. Thank you for joining this afternoon. All four guest speakers appreciate for being able to join us today despite your tight schedule. Professor Rudianto Amirta, good afternoon. Pangeran Dr. Emeroylariffion Abbas, good afternoon. Dr. Berry Juliandi and Dr. Lawrence Bakker, thank you for joining us this afternoon. So participants, thank you and we welcome you to our second international webinar with the title Improving the Qualification of Faculty Member in COVID-19 Pandemic and Beyond. So a little background about this webinar. As we all know that this unprecedented COVID-19 pandemic has caused some limitation to conduct our activities, not only teaching and learning, but also in other aspects of three pillars of higher education, which is research and community services. So that's why this afternoon we have four guest speakers who will deliver each topic and will give us a broader view on how to stay productive, not only during this pandemic, but also after the pandemic. So before I start, I shall friendly remind you to mute your speaker so we can have an effective webinar. If you have a question, there are two ways that you can ask your question. The first one, you can chat your question on, you can type your questions on chat features, and please write your name, institution, and to whom your questions will be addressed to. And the guest speakers by using the button raise hand. Today's webinar, the first one, we will have an opening speech from Rector of Balikpapan University. The second part is the speaker's session. Each speaker will have 30 minutes allotted time to deliver their topic. And the third part is question and answer session where you can ask your questions directly to the guest speakers. And the last one, the closing statement from Vice Rector of Planning, Research, Development and Cooperation. Okay, now let's move to the first part. We will have opening speech from Rector of Balikpapan University. Kepada Rektor Universitas Balikpapan, Bapak Dr. Kandidat S.E. Susiswo S.H.M.H, kami persilahkan.
Baik, terima kasih Mas Adam. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat sore dan
warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Yang saya hormati Prof. Rudianto Amirta dari Universitas Mulawarman, Pangeran Dr. Emeroylariffion Abbas dari U.Ph.D. Brunei Darussalam, yang saya hormati Bapak Dr. Berry Juliandi, sahabat saya ini, saudara saya, Dr. Lawrence Bakker dari University of Amsterdam. Dan tentu moderator yang saya banggakan, dan Bapak Ibu sekalian peserta audiens webinar pada sore hari ini yang berbahagia. Pertama tentu saya bersyukur pada sore hari ini, siang dan sore hari ini, bisa hadir dan kemudian mengikuti webinar yang adalah merupakan kerjasama yang sudah untuk yang kedua kali sesuai dengan laporan yang disampaikan pada saya. Dan saya kira topik webinar kali ini sangat tepat ya, dibahas, didiskusikan untuk kemudian nanti bisa memberikan beberapa hal pemahaman terhadap hal-hal yang kita diskusikan pada sore hari ini. Selamat datang kepada seluruh peserta webinar. Mudah-mudahan semua di antara kita tetap diberikan kesehatan dan kita bisa menghadapi situasi pandemik yang sekarang mewabah di seluruh dunia dan tidak terkecuali di Indonesia dan di kawasan Asia Tenggara. Dan mudah-mudahan dari diskusi ini berkaitan dengan tugas dan tanggung jawab kita di institusi perguruan tinggi, kita akan bisa memberikan kontribusi terbaik, ya, baik untuk kepentingan masyarakat maupun untuk kepentingan pemerintah di dalam menentukan langkah-langkah strategis, ya, khususnya yang berkaitan dengan dunia pendidikan, itu penyelenggaraan pendidikan, ya, di perguruan tinggi, sehingga kemudian itu bisa menjadi guidance kita semua, ya, dalam rangka melaksanakan berbagai macam bentuk kegiatan di internal perguruan tinggi atau Universitas Balikpapan. Kita semua paham, kita tidak tahu atau belum tahu kapan berakhir pandemi Covid-19 ini, ya, dan tentu kita semuanya berdoa mudah-mudahan pemerintah, gitu, langkah-langkah pemerintah semua barangkali, ya, di seluruh negara ini, termasuk juga keterlibatan para ilmuwan, ya, untuk bisa menemukan cara terbaik, ya, di dalam rangka mengatasi COVID-19 yang merupakan bencana kemanusiaan yang sangat luar biasa, saya kira ini, ya. Saya kira itu sebagai pengantar saya. Sekali lagi selamat datang, ya, kepada semua pihak, terutama para narasumber. Sekali lagi kepada Prof. Rudianto dari Universitas Mulawarman, kemudian pada Pangeran Emeroylariffion Abbas dari UBD Brunei Darussalam, Pak Berry Juliandi, khusus Pak Berry, mungkin perlu Pak nanti diinformasikan kepada kami, rasanya informasi yang katanya IPB ada menemukan, gitu ya, obat atau apa gitu, ya, sehingga kemudian itu bisa dijadikan sebagai salah satu ya referensi lah berkaitan dengan penanganan COVID-19 ini di negara kita. Kepada Mr. Lauren Bakker, ya, ini sudah lama kita bekerja sama dan mudah-mudahan dalam waktu yang tidak terlalu lama kita bisa bertemu kembali di Universitas Balikpapan dan kemudian kita bisa melakukan kegiatan-kegiatan kerjasama yang konkret, ya, pada kegiatan-kegiatan penelitian dan lain-lain sebagainya. Dan saya kira kerjasama-kerjasama yang seperti ini perlu kita bangun terus-menerus dalam rangka untuk meningkatkan peran dunia perguruan tinggi, peran ilmuwan dalam rangka mengatasi berbagai hal, termasuk hal-hal yang berkaitan dengan soal-soal kemanusiaan. Saya kira demikian. Selamat sore dan Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih banyak Pak Rector. Thank you for the opening speech. Now let's move to the first speakers. I would like to welcome Professor Rudianto Amirta. Professor Rudianto Amirta is currently the Dean of Faculty of Forestry, Mulawarman University. He earns his Ph.D. from Applied Life Science, Kyoto University, Japan. His area of research or his area of study include biomass conversion, lignin bioconversion, pulp and paper technology, and renewable energy. His topic for today's webinar is Achieving Highest Education in Academic Career. Please, Pak Prof. Rudi, the room is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi.
Thank you, Pak Adam. So first of all, let me express my gratitude and appreciation to the Rector of University of Balikpapan and all the university member who have been placed me to provide the opportunity for me to share information about this improving education and career as a lecturers. And also all the speakers who once participate in these meetings, ladies and gentlemen. So I would like to share my presentation. So in terms of that, please allow me for the host of the meetings. Okay.
Yes, you have been assigned as co-host, Prof. Rudi.
Okay, sorry for that. And I forget that. I would like to appreciate to Ibu Mary, the Vice Rector of Universitas Balikpapan, who once inform me about this event, and then I really thanks for the opportunity to talk about these topics in front of my colleagues there. So as the title, okay, you're welcome, Bu. So the title of my presentation today is Achieving Highest Education, Degree and Academic Career. So the outline of my talks related about some related aspects related with achieving higher education, degree, and academics. So I would like to talk about why, what, how, when, and who, and of course where. So started from the why we have to achieve the highest education as a lecturer. So I would like to open my presentation by showing the data of University of Balikpapan that inform in Sintaristek Brin. So basically we can find the information about the qualification and also status of the University of Balikpapan from the point of view of the number of lectures, qualifications, and also the important things about the publication and some achievement related with this citation and so on. So right now, the university was evaluated based on their performance. So in terms of that, I think this is the baseline data that could be improved in the future by preparing some programs. So for the Rector, I would like to inform you about the situation. So most of university have to pay attention on this data. We cannot obey this situation. For instance, I don't know the number of the total number of lectures once working in University of Balikpapan, but at least here we found 149 lecturer who once registered formally in Ph.D. This is the database center of Ministry of Culture and Education of Indonesia. This is important because most of the data right now come from the system that owned by the Ministry of Culture and Education, including their achievement. For instance, here we can easily find the qualification of the lectures. For instance, as far we still find unknown status of the lectures, 46%. So this is quite a big number of them. So we have to clarify this, and then if possible, we have to improve this data by updating the data in our operator. And others, I can find that the status of 51's instructors. So I call this instructor because in Indonesia, I think we call this as assistant ahli, but I think in general, you can call it as an instructor. And then 27's assistant professors, and also 4 position for the associate professors. So at least based on this data, we can recheck we already put the newest data or not. And others based on the research activities. So the data can show that as far already University of Balikpapan published 25 papers that registered and also indexed by Scopus, and with 45 citations. I know that the idea about the Scopus index journal in University of Balikpapan is still new, and we need to fight for this. And all the lectures have to pay attention on this and contribute positively to every single data that could be increase the position and level of University of Balikpapan. And others. So let's change the discussion, and then so let's again we recognize our activity right now. So as mentioned and clearly in our position, lecturers or professors are professional educators and scientists with the main task of transforming, developing, and disseminating science and technology through education, research, and community services. In bahasa, dosen adalah pendidik, profesional, dan ilmuwan. So, Padam, so I mix my presentation with bahasa too, right? Okay. So.
Yes, Pak, bilingual is okay, no problem.
Okay, bilingual, right? Okay. Dosen adalah pendidik profesional dan ilmuwan. So the both of the activities should be linked with our activities. And this is the description of the simple work and activity of lectures. So we have to deliver our subject as our education activities and also do research activities that potentially used by people and published as our contribution to the science. And by using the finding that we have, we can develop the people by doing our community services. So this is the description that Pak Adam earlier mentioned as three Dharma perguruan tinggi that we use in our topics for this webinar. These are the important things. So when we look at the regulation that we have, why the education level, education degree should be 5 and increase by all of the lectures, including in University of Balikpapan, because it was clearly mentioned in our decree number 12 at 2012 that clearly roll on the higher education, whereas based on the education programs, its level of education at higher education provide different qualification for its lectures. So at least master degree required to deliver some subject and also to manage the programs in undergraduate programs. So we have no allow, the lower degree to work on these programs. And other for the master's and doctor program. So the doctor degree have to work and doing their activity on these programs, and also professional and the specialist. So the regulation and qualification was mentioned clearly in this degree. So it means that based on the regulations, all the lecture have to increase the level, depend on the education program that they belongs. For instance, all of the regulation clearly guide us. So easily we can find in our guideline books. So we can assess our credit that achieved to predict our promotions or to submit our promotion level and on this. For instance, right now we have a master degree that all allow to be instructor in the undergraduate program. But for the master degree, they only allow to be assistant professor. So since a couple years ago, the government also released the additional regulation, whereas to be an associate professor, the lecturer have to get the Ph.D. degree first. Otherwise, they will not promote to be associate professor. Because on this level, the lecturer already have to deliver the subject. They can deliver the subject in the master and also in the PhD program. So that's why they have to have a higher degree level in front of the students. And of course, most of us have a very big dreams to be a professor. This is like a top achievement of the lecturer in the world, I think, including us. So luckily, I already achieved these positions. And I hope all of the UNIBA lecturers, including who ones right now still assistant professor, the assistant professor and associate, will be get this promotion soon. And then when we look at the common situation that we have, mostly, so when we talk about the promotions, including our education degree, the issues will become the personal issues instead of the institutional issues. So based on my experience, for instance, 10, 15 years ago, so when I graduate from my master program, I have to find university supervisors for my PhD program, including the scholarship. At that time, the situation is very, very complicated. Why I talk like this? Because we realized that the student or the young lecturer, they have no enough network, they have no enough experience and knowledge on the, for instance, making a good proposals, start the communication with the prospective supervisors, and also to find a scholarship. I hope the situation will not find in University of Balikpapan. But if the situation is still the same situation that I faced at that time, so let's discuss. Because right now in Mulawarman University, we already have the program that can solve their problems. Talking about increasing the degree of lecture and also career, not right now, not only talk about the personal issues, because since a couple months ago, the Minister of Culture and Education of Indonesia just released the new indicators for the university or institute performance, whereas to be the good university groups, we have to consider some main indicator that should be show the good or excellent performance. Such as I can show here, this is the 8, unfortunately I don't have a time to translate in Indonesia, but later on I will show the others presentation that really fit with the idea on this based on the data. So for instance, I will use bahasa. Bapak Ibu dosen sekalian yang mengikuti webinar ini, saya ingin sampaikan bahwa saat ini isu peningkatan karir baik sebagai dosen yang memegang jabatan fungsional maupun latar belakang pendidikan tidak lagi menjadi isu yang sifatnya personal. Tapi ini adalah isu yang betul-betul menjadi kebutuhan oleh sebuah institusi pendidikan. Mohon izin Pak Rektor, saya harus menyampaikan bahwa ini adalah sesuatu yang harus konsiderasi penuh dan direncanakan dengan baik. So I think this is important because before we reach the good and achieve the good result on the university level, we have to talk about the process. Seperti di sini bahwa selain bicara mengenai lulusan dan persentase lulusan, itu jelas bahwa bagaimana kemudian keterlibatan dosen di dalam program-program studi yang masuk kepada QS 100, yang top 100 di setiap subjek itu juga penting. Sehingga yang namanya program perencanaan, pembiayaan, dan pembekalan serta penguatannya menjadi sesuatu yang penting kita desain dari awal. Kemudian juga di sini yang tidak kalah penting adalah di poin-poin rumusan itu ada dirujukan yang tadi juga ada hal penting yang terkait dengan di poin 9 di dalam 20 poin tadi, 20 so based on 20s the main performance indicators of universities, for instance, that we have as the BLU, Mulawarman University have to fulfill and consider about the percentage of permanent lecturer who have doctoral qualifications at the current year to the total permanent lecturer. So the ratio between Ph.D. and non-Ph.D. degree in our total number of lecturers is very, very important to get good performance on these evaluations. The number 10, percentage of permanent lecturer holding associate professor positions. So the promotion of the lecture not only based on their activities, but also have to push by the management. In terms of this, the universities through the faculty or study program could support them. to get this promotion. And others, the number of permanent lecturers who have professor positions. And other related is the international publication are the result of research published in international scientific journal or proceeding which has international standard serials number or book that have been published by universities or other publisher and has international standard book number. So I really appreciate these webinars because as we look at these indicators, most of us should be pay attention on the internationalization of our activity, not only regional or just domestic ones. So when we talk about the achieving highest education or academic degree of the lectures, so as I mentioned that advancing the education level and career of the lecturer is not a personal issue, but also a strategic target and need of the university. In terms of this, we need a good plan that targeted by universities and field of expert study and full support from the university to make it happen. So the lecturer cannot go to the universities and also the subject that will be studied without any consideration and get permit from the university. That is important. That's why since the beginning, it should be planned and prepared by university too. And then we need the commitment and hard work from the lecturer in fulfilling the qualification required to ensure that the lecturer can get a scholarship, if possible. But I think this is the most important things, to getting the scholarship. Later, I will show you some data related with our activity. And be accepted at the intended university. And the last one, there is a support program should be initiated by the university to bridge the need of lecturer in preparing themselves and meeting the qualification need to be able to get a scholarship and be accepted at destination. So sometimes we cannot prepare everything by ourselves, but we can support them to get by themselves. So later I will discuss on this. And I think not only to get the highest degree, but also to get and achieve the highest academic career. So again, I have to talk that this is not a personal issue. So most of lecturers, they think that the getting promotion is depend on themselves, but actually this idea should be designed in the beginning. So Pak Adam, may I?
Oh, jangan-jangan itu
sebentar, Pak Adam boleh
itu dua.
Pak Adam, saya boleh sebentar, barang 2 menit aja.
Silakan.
Saya akan matikan video sebentar ya, Pak.
Baik, Prof.
Oke, saya akan tinggalkan tempat karena saya harus buka gitu ya. Sebentar, Pak Adam.
Baik, Prof.
And okay, sorry for that. So continue my talk about higher academic career. So this also should be get the support from the university. University through faculties or study program can arrange and determine annual achievement target for the number of lecturers who must increase their functional positions. So this is the some consideration that we have in Faculty of Forestry and also Mulawarman University. So we just started to pay attention on this. Previously, we just note if someone get promotion, but right now, year by year, we assess the possibilities for them to get the promotion. And in terms of that, we support them by some programs. And for the junior staff, I think based on the data, I found that most of the staff of University of Balikpapan still in the assistance professor level. So means that they have to do some activities related with the research activity and others to collect the requirement credit before they submit to get the promotion, I think. But for the young or junior staff, so the government, the university have to support them to get training, for instance, in faculty or applied approach, because two activities, there's activities related with like certification. So, and also, I think English is also very important for all of the lectures, because we realize that English is not our mother language. So even for me, so we still need to practice our English, writing proposal, and scientific publication. So this is some point that we have on that. And the most important thing is, since the achieving the highest academic career not only belongs of the personnel of the lectures, so the management have to prepare and make like a small team to support the lecturers to calculate their adequacy of credit number and preparing the comment for proposals before they submit it to get the promotions. Based on my experience here as a dean, most of the lecturers that we have, professor, associate professor, and other positions, most of them thinks that the faculty have to provide. They have no time and they don't know well about the calculating protocol and others related with the promotion itself. And in terms of this, I think University of Balikpapan have to discuss several times with LLDT, right? On the promotion or other related with the manpowers. And of course, university faculties and study program have developed collaboration with various partners, as well as right now already done by Rector with our colleagues from Amsterdam University, Dr. Lawrence. I think this is very good chance for us to have such collaboration too, for, especially to get, for instance, potential project collaborations, research action, and so on. For instance, we just discussed with our colleagues from the Leiden University and also Wageningen University, and we worked together to prepare a proposal talking about the some related aspect with an environmental situation in our future capital city that located in East Kalimantan, the nearest area to Balikpapan, I think. So I think UNIBA also can have such activities with Amsterdam, for instance. Others, I think, based on that issues, for instance, in Faculty of Forestry, so we decided to have like a roadmap for our development and also milestones. So sorry for our foreign speaker, because the information right down in Bahasa. So this is our faculty strategy and milestone, where is the information related with the research activity, excellent manpower targets, competitiveness, and also internationalization. Whereas in this information, we can find that we decided with some program that we have, so minimum 75% of our lectures should be PhD, in a PhD degree. And then minimum 20% of our lecture, they have to be professor's degree. So fortunately, some of the target already we got, but some still in progress. And every year we also have a target to have, for instance, in the research perspective, we have to find our partners to support this value. Whereas in average, based on the number of our lectures, so I have to fight for this $7,500 per lecture every year. And I have to have a 30 collaboration with partners from the foreign, regional, and also in this region. And it should be distributed to our study program, because right now, based on the performance indicator, study program have to get that idea too. And for the publications, we have a role, whereas every professors, they have to publish one paper, and every 2 doctors, 2 Ph.D. have to publish one paper yearly, and for master, they have published one paper at least annually. So based on that regulation, we can estimate the number of publications that mandatory have to publish by our faculty. But based on my experience, due to these regulations, the lecture, they have more publication than that we set in the beginning. So without any quantitative indicator, sometimes difficult to assess our achievement on our work. This is only one of the examples. Others, we maximize our role. We maximize and increase the activity of our international partners. So I would like to show you some collaborators and partners that we have in faculty of Mulawarman as far. So for instance, right now, funded by Indonesian conservations organization, we work with some college from the Cornell and then Wisconsin University on the identifications of mammals in East Kalimantan province. And with some partners from Japan, we still continue our work with the stingless bee and herbal plant medicines. So we have a strong research group on that. And also with United States and Bakker from UK about the conservation issues of orangutans. So this is some information about our partners. So actually we use our international partners as our target to deliver our activities, to send our staff to get the degree, to increase their degree, and also to send our students. For instance, next April, if we okay with the pandemic, with the COVID, for instance, we already have agreement with Kyoto University to have an exchange student program, where is 10 till 20 students from Japan, from Kyoto, will come and stay with us to follow our lecture program here in Mulawarman University for 1 month. And we will send our 10 students to study for the short times during the summer in Kyoto University too. So we got the support from one of the woody company who wants commit to conserve the diversity resources in tropical area, including in East Kalimantan. I think for the future, we have possibilities to invite also UNIBA, I mean University Balikpapan, to join with us on this program too. because I realized that we have a very similar, I think, situation and then challenges on our students. There is a very big chance to have such collaboration too. So we try to make the collaboration is active, not only after we sign, just we keep the document, but we try to make the collaboration with them. But mostly we have research activities. As I mentioned in the earlier presentation, that we realized that the most problem come from of the lecture to study in the foreign university or even in the Indonesian university related with their scholarship. So right now, most of the scholarship have very strict regulations, whereas even in Indonesia university, the lecturer have to get a good score on their English. And for the international scholarship, such as LPDP, our own and proudly Indonesian scholarship, for instance, other consideration also required, for instance, the university ranking. So in terms of that, we choose our partner and we discuss on them about this possibility. And some lectures, mostly the junior lecturer, they have no publication enough. So even they have publication, most of the publication just publish in their own institutions. I think from the beginning, we have changed this strategy. Even they publish in the index proceedings, it's better, I think, because they already have the, for instance, Scopus ID, and then easily the prospective supervisor can track and find then their name in the publication index. So this is one of strategy. So better for us to give a chance and opportunity to the junior staff to have a publication on the such proceeding index or other journals. And of course, it's a proposal. They still need the senior or management support to have a good research proposal. And of course, the others is related with the finding the supervisors and also help them during the discussions. And others, right, and we also need to support them to face the written examinations with the good strategies in interview and others related with the legal permit and others. So related with the information about the bridging program, I would like to describe our activity related with that. For instance,
okay, excuse me, Prof. Rudy, maybe 5 to 7 minutes left.
Okay, no problem. I think this is my last information. Pak Adam, thank you for your reminder. So we have a students or a lecturer who wants looking and fighting for the scholarship to find the scholarship. And we are proudly, I hope to inform you that Ibu Mary, our Uniba University of Balikpapan Vice Rector for the cooperation, one of the alumni of this program. So at that time, she's very good on this, follow this program, and I think this is one of the success story that we have. She also get a very good achievement during her study in Chulalongkorn University. So our task, our main task on the bridging program is help the student to find the scholarship, and then looking for destination college or university that and also potential supervisor for student and lecturer who will continue their study to the master and doctoral level. So they don't need to do everything by themselves. So we will take this work for them. And of course, most of the lecturers still facing a problem on their English. That's why we have to train their English language skill to fulfill the requirement score for the scholarship and also to be accepted at the destination university. And we also did assistings in writing research proposal, and we also support them during the discussion process with the Professor Bakker related to the research subject, and prepare the student and lecturer for written examination and interview in order to obtain scholarship and enter the national university. So actually we started from the simple ones. We know that the most of the lecturer want to go to the Europe, for instance, universities, want to go to the top 100 universities. But based on this the program, we can evaluate which the lecturer that potentially get the scholarship and have a program in the European country, and where is that impossible. So in terms of that, we decided, we suggest them to choose the way that we think acceptable for them. So we started from the Asian regions. So in the beginning of the bridging program, we sent more 40, I think, 30 or 40 students and lecturers to study in many universities in Thailand. And for the second bridging program, we send them to the European university partners. So right now they still, some of them still continue to study in Belgium, Germans, and also in Netherlands, but not in Amsterdam, so in Leiden. And others, they continue to study in Japan. Some of them already graduate, and some still, the rest of them still continue to study there. So actually, this is the destination of them. So Japan and Thailand, German, Belgium, and Netherlands are the countries that are destination of our students as well. So based on this experience, we believe that with the bridging program, we can provide the good candidate of our lecture to get the scholarship from many sources. For instance, we got the scholarship from LPDP, come from Indonesian government. We also got the from Asian Scholarship, DAED, Norwegian Embassy, even from MEX, Jubilee, Golden Jubilee Thailand, and so on. So we can fight. So after bridging program, with the minimum cost and effort, we can push them to fight for the scholarship and acceptance to the very good university. So without bridging, I think the possibility to them to success on that is a bit lower, I think. And also with the program that we have, for instance, this is the situation that we have last year. So we submit 6 professors' SIP document only from the Faculty of Forestry. So based on our scenario, so we hope till 2015, we will have more than 25 professors in our, not percent, but 25 from almost half of our lecture in Faculty of Forestry. Right now, we are the biggest number of professor or guru besar in Mulawarman University with 16 professors. So I do believe that the culture that we have, the system that we already run will be effectively work in the future. And I hope that we can follow some positive aspect on that. I think that's all my presentation, Pak Adam. So closing this presentation, I would like again to thanks for and appreciate for the chance that given to me from Uniba, from University of Balikpapan. Hopefully we will have a more, and then we will have a closer relationship with some research activities, manpower development, and so on. And also with our scholarship sponsor that I show here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. Rudy. So I think some points that I noted from your presentation vision that improving career and improving educational level is not only personal things, but I think it's also how institutional responsibility. So I think that's one of the things that are really very interesting to me.
Yes.
And also in terms of the thing that you mentioned about some lecturers feel it's a little bit complicated when sending proposal for promotion. I think from my experience from the last time, LLDT has put a new online system where we can actually upload any time of the credit that we achieve. Each semester, every publication that we have, we can put directly and just wait until the credit achieved. So it's a lot better system now, I think, compared to a few. So thank you very much, Prof. Rudy, being able to deliver the presentation. Please stay with us. Next, we will go to the second speaker. So our second speaker is Pangeran Dr. Emir Abbas from Faculty of Integrated Technologies, University Brunei, Darussalam. Dr. Abbas earned his Ph.D. in Communication System from Imperial College London, United Kingdom. And he is currently Deputy Director for Office of Innovation and Enterprise. His area of research are in energy efficiency, Internet of Things, data analytics, and signal processing. His topic today is also related to partnership with industry, which is how to develop or developing partnership with industry or academy collaboration. Please, Dr. Abbas, the room is yours.
Thank you very much, Chair. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
I think, Chair, if you can allow me to share my slides, yeah. Let me find the share screen.
Hello, Dr. Abbas. Is it possible if you can just put up your volume so it's a little bit low?
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yes.
Is it okay now? Okay, I think it's okay. Hello? Hello?
Yes, Pak Abbas.
Okay, so you can hear me, yeah? So I'll
Yes.
start my presentation, inshallah.
Yes, we have your presentation already.
All right. Okay. So thank you to the host, University Balikpapan, for inviting me to this webinar. So the topic that I've been assigned is developing partnership with industry academia collaboration. Yeah, specifically sharing experiences, our experience on the current practice at our university during this COVID-19. But so basically, I come from my engineering background, but I've been seconded to this Office of ABC Innovation and Enterprise at University Brunei. So basically at UBD, we have 5 AVCs, 5 officers under our Vice Chancellor, and one of them is dealing with the innovation and enterprise. Okay, so that's the direction that we are going now, basically. So for the past few years, for the past 5 to 10 years, we've been concentrating on transforming ourselves from universities that initially only concentrated on teaching, but now we've been recognized as a research-intensive university. So as a next step, we are going to translate our universities as universities of innovation and enterprise. So our motto, objective, strategic goals, basically for the next few years, to nurture innovation and translate that into enterprise. So So basically for this strategic objective, we have a few objectives of the universities, and one of them is to drive this objective. So our office mainly deals with the industry liaison side and project engagement to get projects from the industries. When we define industries, we include government sectors because Brunei is mostly a government-driven economy. And also NGOs as well. We are working with NGOs and all these different industries on the different level. We also have a unit on tech transfer office. So meaning if the researchers come up with some invention or something, we'll be responsible for the patenting of the idea, right? And then commercialization, and then marketing those products, and also because all of this would require an ecosystem, right? So on the education front, we are also managing the different programs, the innovation programs within UBD, organizing events to promote more innovations. Specifically, we have entrepreneurship village, so that students who are interested in incubating themselves and to do startups can go there, where we can train them how to incubate a business. And for alumni, we also welcome alumni from our alumni to come up to, we have UBD Startup Center basically. So that's for alumni. So we train them as well if they want to go into business. So for the focus of this talk, I'm going to start in terms of structure. I'm going to talk a little bit about our universities, our university, specifically our roles. I'll give a brief introduction of what the UBD, what we are trying to do, the different faculties that we have, because being a small countries, we have to utilize our resources carefully. So and then I'm going to go into the functions of our office in terms of the roles and functions, as well as how we view the ecosystem, specifically the innovation enterprise ecosystem in Brunei, and how we fit into that ecosystem. And then towards the end, I'm gonna, because with the COVID, of course, and Brunei is not as bad as some other countries, but we still have a period where we experience some restrictions. Yeah? So that's represent challenges during the COVID, and then we have to limit our operation and how we push forwards from there. Right. So just a little bit about Brunei. So basically, Brunei is that small dot of countries in the Borneo Island with a very small populations of less than 500K. So our main product is oil and gas. So mostly the industries in Brunei is driven by this oil and gas industries and other core subcontractors of this oil and gas industries. But we do still have a large proportion of the country as rainforest. So within research, we have strength in that biodiversities, and we have people concentrating on herbal research and so on. But in terms of education, right, in Brunei, we only have very limited number of universities. So we have 3 universities, UNISA, which concentrated on Islamic studies, UTB, Technology Brunei, which concentrated on technology stuff, but UBD is more encompassing. So we cover different areas, but still focusing on the specific niche where our countries want to go, right? So that's a little bit of quick facts about our universities. It's still new, still young. We were established in 1985 with English as a medium of teaching, a medium of learning, with the exceptions of some programs and some modules. We also managed to get into our QS ranking. Currently now we are in the 254 in the world QS ranking, and recently we are involved in the TH ranking. We are in the top 400. In terms of the number of staff, we are quite a small universities. We are total maybe 500 to 600 staff, with more than 50% of them, 51% of them are expatriate staff. So basically, because we are quite a new universities and the local staff are quite young, so we bring in these experts in various fields in order to help the local staff to build up our knowledge. In terms of the student, again, it's quite small as well, around 5,000 students with 21% composed of international students. So in terms of academic faculties, right, we also, as I said, UNISA, the other universities are concentrating more focus on specific areas, but for our universities, it's more wide. We have 9 academic faculties from social science to engineering and health. But there'll be a new faculties coming up, concentrating on digital science, so that's our 10th faculty. But we do also have a research institute of 7 research institute, in fact, on covering different areas, particularly for energy sciences, data analytics, biodiversities, and Islamic studies. And we do have language centers as well to support the language development of the students. We have our overseas campus. That's the first one that we have. We're collaborating with FPT universities in Da Nang to provide services, which was English services in Vietnam, which we started in 2017. So that's like satellite campus of our universities in a foreign country. That's the first one, and we're hoping we'll get other in the near future. Right. In terms of research, as I said, because we have pristine 70% still for us, a lot of our researchers are concentrating on biodiversity, energy, because we are on oil and gas, Asian studies, Islamic studies, and data analytics as well. So data analytics is quite a new area, but previously we did collaborate with IBM in US for a transfer of skills, so that we'll be able to build up our data analytics skills, particularly for our local staff. That other research trusts that we have, so this research trust basically complement our other research strategies, our main research strategies that we have before. So encompassing, so let's say for sensor technology, for data collection, so that we'll be able to do more data analytics work, catalysis research, mostly concentrating on oil and gas industry, herbal research, and ecotourism, to take advantage of our biodiversities, and of course on educations. We are emphasizing on increasing the standard of living of the countries, of the populations of the countries, and hence education is one of the main focus of the countries as we progress towards our 2035 visions. So as I said before, in the past we were primarily teaching universities, but in the past 10 to 20 years, we've completely developed ourselves. So if you can see the trend in terms of the numbers of papers by year of publications, we start with 2000, we only have like 43 on the 50 papers range. But in 2018, it's like 350, 360, and it's increasing quite often. So recently, we've been recognized as a research-intensive universities, and that's when we decide to go to for the THE and QS ranking. Right. Now, specifically of our office, so our office is, as I said, there's 5 assistant vice chancellor at the UBD, at the university, and one of them is in concentrating on innovation and enterprise. As I said before, we want to transform ourselves from merely a research industry, research-oriented universities. We want to go into the innovation sides, meaning we would like to commercialize our research, and that would present challenges in itself. That's why we have a specific office that deals with that deals with the industry liaison, that deals with the IP rights that's emanating from this research, and then the process of technology transfer, where to market, how to develop the product, how to do a market surveys, and then at the end, the entrepreneurship side, how do we build startups, how do we license our IP? So that's covered under the last one, entrepreneurship. But we also deal with the education part of things, which we are going to talk about in a bit. So that's how we itulah macam so far we have one success stories in terms of commercialization from research. So that's purely from research. So we had we collaborated previously with Pexela Corporation from Japan on developing some paint product, paint that's resistance to heat, which will make the paint last longer, and then will some of the pattern that we produce reflects heats and so on. So from that specific collaborations, we managed to output 4 to 5 patents from that specific research group. And then we managed to license one of the patents to one of the startups in Brunei, who is now operating in numerous countries, Brunei, Thailand, Malaysia, and Singapore. So we are hoping, even at the moment, the startups company is doing further research at our universities to develop the product that they're licensed even further. So although we managed to commercialize other non-technology punya product, but our office mostly concentrate on technology product because that's the output from our research lab. So we want to utilize our research, which we have spent so much money on, and we are trying to commercialize those products. So from this commercialization success, I would say, we would like to duplicate this by, that's what, where our office come in. So that's how we view things lah. So we're engaging industries, especially we're emphasizing now on industry-based research and development projects. When we say industries, we're including government ministries, SMEs, which we're working with startups as well, NGOs, and also the community. So of course, we do have several programs that concentrates on community. And to do that, to focus, because we have limited resources, both in terms of finance, in terms of manpower. So our office is doing a lot of pattern landscape review to identify focus area where there's a gap lah, where we should go, our researchers should go on top of the normal scientific literature review that researchers normally do. So we are complementing both pattern landscape, literature review, and even we're doing market surveys for particularly targeting applied research. Yeah, so that's how we see it. Once we identify the project, and then our research office grant some research money, and the research goes on, we are hoping that it will produce some IP. Specifically, we're not targeting all research to produce IPR, particularly we're targeting on patents. Yeah, so we are only targeting technology punya research. So that's where our office re-engage with the faculty members, with the researchers, in terms of the IP process, in terms of the drafting of the patent documents, and then filing and everything. We also help them in prototype development, marketing, market testing, and towards the end, when the patent is granted, we look at the different business model that is suitable for that different IP. And then UBD will also look into investing in some of this IP, and then in terms of whether we want to license it or whether we want to have startups. Startups can be from the students, which take that IP, because some of the IP is not commercial ready yet. So the startups is responsible for developing the IP even further. Of course, because it's a high risky business at the early stage. So that's where the UBD investments comes in to help the startups to develop the product some more. Okay, so our office is basically that's how we see it. So we engage with industries at the early stage of the project. We have regular industry engagement. We talk to mostly the big industries, the oil and gas industries, and we also talk to the subcontractors in the hope that we'll get industry relevant projects. So we realized that from our previous success, it's easier to utilize industry research project towards the end after patenting, it's easier for other companies to take because there's already a user when we started the projects. So we dealt with the tech transfer and commercialization process, and we hopefully there'll be a startup or spin-off company, or will be able to license the product to a company, and that company will re-engage us. It's like a feedback system to engage us in terms of research. That's how we view the ecosystem, the innovation and enterprise ecosystem in Brunei, specifically at U.P.D. Right, so we do a lot of industry visits, engagement, MOU, and then we focus our research. So that's focused research is more of internal process. We work, we focus on some. So on the applied research, we do pattern landscape review so that we can suggest a more focused research. So we are more working on people who already have pattern, so that to focus their pattern even more into specific areas. We also do consultancy in terms of research consultancy, teaching and learning consultancy, and so on and so on. And then we produce a number of IPs. So far we have like 61 filed patents already, both locally and internationally, with 39 in US, with 35 already granted in different areas of technologies. And then from that, we are hoping that we are able to license or have startups from the students to develop the technology that we have developed. But so far, for the few years that we have started this process, we only have one startup. But in the non-research base, we have more than 200 plus students. But we would like to have more on the research base, which quite a challenge for us, because maybe of our ecosystem is not quite ready yet. Yeah. So that's basically the focus that we have. So in the industry engagement strategies, to sum up, the industry engagement strategies, we engage with industries and we try to focus. We engage with our faculty members so that the research of our faculty members will be more focused to the specific needs of the industries. And then we are improving our tech transfer and commercialization process to make it leaner and to make it, but we don't, because filing IP can be a very expensive exercise. So we are trying to make the process leaner. At the same time, we want to filter out the not so potential IP which does not have potentials, less potentials. And the third one, we are also to enable us to do 1 and 2, the industry engagement and tech transfer process. We also need to improve the innovation and entrepreneurship culture in U.P.D, which we have different initiatives within the universities. So that's basically our key initiative. So I've divided that into focus pattern review, scientific review. So the first part is mostly on the industry engagement. U.P.D industry platform is quite new because we just implemented it during just before COVID, actually, maybe in October, because it's an online platform to allow industries to give us the industries related problems or research. And then we'll be able to match them up with our researchers. But somehow during the COVID, because during the COVID only become fully utilized by the industries, and we're getting more industry related problems via that platform. So we do also have contract research and consultancy in terms of technology and marketing, TTO. Our TTO works. We do marketing. We have innovation wharf, both digital and physical innovation wharf. We do the IP protection and commercialization, prototype development, funding support, and lastly, from the education side to improve the innovations. We do have, we operate U.P.D Technology and Innovation Support Center. So that's in conjunction with WIPO. We also have Entrepreneurship Village for U.P.D students and U.P.D Startup Center for U.P.D alumni if they decide to do startups, and to support them, basically to train them. And we also run a few innovations module within, as a breadth module within the universities. So when we approach universities, when we approach industries, that's the 5 area that we have categorized these things: research and development and access to our patents, which admittedly is our main focus when we approach industries, to get industry research project and for them to access our patents, whether they want to use our patents, or for us to jointly commercialize these patents. We also socialize teaching and learning. Joint CSR, mostly we work with NGOs to utilize our research capacities at the universities to help the community at large. So we do a lot of work with special needs communities, for example. And the last one is just the other services that we have. So let's say if the industry need data analytics services or language services, that's where we categorize them. Okay, so that's basically the specific the roles of our office basically. But of course, come COVID, because we are used to engaging the industries physically, so we normally will visit the industries and try to discuss with them. So we are doing a lot of engagement and the tech process and the educational drive. Everybody's used to it doing physically, but during COVID, everything basically moved online. So I'm sharing some of the challenges that we have now. So the first one in terms of industry engagement, right? So we had a short period, admittedly. Now it's better because we short period, maybe 2 to 3 months or maybe 5 months of severe restriction, where we have to start our business continuity plan, where people cannot meet in persons and everything, social distancing. So for that, we use more, because normally before the pre-COVID era, pre-COVID, we're using physical meetings. We're used to physical meeting. Everybody prefer physical meeting, but now we have to utilize online engagement. So it's like a move towards digitalization. The first, we were trying to move towards digitalization even before COVID, but somehow COVID expedite that move towards online engagement. And then we started our online collaborative platform maybe in September last year, but we didn't get any feedback, a lot of requests from the industries. But come COVID, the industries are more open to use those collaborative platform to engage with the universities. And then, of course, with that, because with the problem of COVID, the good thing, there's focused research collaboration, especially in digital area, because we do have now collaboration with MOH, specifically in public health. So we are working with some of the companies doing digital tracking, and even in educations, we are moving towards that. Whilst before, there's a lot of issues in terms of data sharings and everything, but somehow COVID managed to expedite that digital transformation towards. I'm not saying there's still no issues. There's no longer any issues in terms of data privacy and everything, but somehow during the COVID period, people just try to work on what they have now. So that's one of the good thing about it. Of course, in CSR, during the COVID period, we do a lot of joint CSR, because let's say for people coming into Brunei, they need more manpower. So that's where our discovery year students or even our staff volunteer for that. But for now, I think the situation, COVID situation in Brunei is quite stable. So it's almost normal, because we've closed our border except for unlimited conditions for people to come in. So we are starting back our normal industry engagement, but on top of that, we are still continuing online engagement, because when you think about it, when you do physical meetings, right, you have to organize, you have to have proper organizations in terms of the locations. But the thing with meeting via Zooms or via Teams that we normally have, we can have it everybody can have it lah. It's more flexible for people. Some people can do it at home, some people can do it at work. So somehow, alhamdulillah, now, although we have some physical engagement, but some of the, at least from some of the pre-physical meetings, we do now through online platform. And there we are still getting industry problems on our online collaborative platform, and then we have now some focused research collaborations in some area. People are more open on collaborations in those areas. Okay, so the second one, in terms of the commercialization process, we do have that. For the IP process during the COVID period, most of the work can be done online, because when we are patenting, it's mostly between our team and the researchers, the group of researchers. So the number of people can be kept very small. So that COVID doesn't really disrupt that IP process. But for prototype development, most of the prototype development mostly move to software development. So most of the work that have been done during the COVID period is mostly on the software prototype development of the IP that we've generated. And of course, some of which, because Brunei is not a manufacturing country, so some of the prototype development that we have to outsource for outside, that basically come to a standstill during the COVID period, but it's improving now, alhamdulillah. Marketing and the marketing testing, we do have progress on that in terms of promotional material, but again, for market testing, we only mostly do that using software products. So meaning using through Qualtrics or WhatsApp to test our product, but still that's have some limitations on how we can test the product. But now I think it's getting better. In terms of because we also do work on improving the innovation culture. So generally at UBD during the COVID period, UBD, I think successfully, I would say, managed to convert most of our teaching, not just the innovation teaching, to online. So except for some modules, there's almost no interruption or no delay in our exams and everything. So during the peak period, of course, some of the practical stuff we have to stop, but now the practical can go on, but teaching, even now, although some countries still have problems with COVID, I would say Brunei is very relaxed now. The teaching at the universities has moved online, right? Our management has been very instrumental. Initially, we are thinking of digitizing of all our teaching, but it's just the COVID period make that transition somehow easier, and then people adapt quickly. So now instead of teaching physically, lecturers are becoming creative in their and delivering their online classes. So we have live teaching. I personally uses recorded videos, dictations, utilize discussions, forums, just to make our online classes or online teaching more innovative, more innovative and more fruitful and more efficient. So we are moving towards that in terms of teaching at the universities. Of course, there's limitations, especially for practicals one, but at least for subjects which doesn't require physical interaction, we are still minimizing that interactions. We are moving online basically most of the time. So we at our office, we organize entrepreneurship training during the COVID period online. We also do competitions and workshop. Of course, the people have different views now. Whether, of course, it's not as successful. Sometimes there's limitation of this online workshop, but overall we managed to adapt. And then I'm sure as time progresses, we'll become more creative and in making this online workshop and online workshop competition more innovative and more effective for that platform. Then we're also focusing now on digital innovations because we're in COVID period. That's what people are looking at. So to conclude, right? So to conclude on the challenges during the COVID period, we do have some challenges because we don't have, but admittedly it was quite a short period, 4 to 5 months only. And then the good thing, people are quickly adapting to this online norm, to online online norm now. Because we are blessed, alhamdulillah, with the availability of the everybody have internet connections, and then laptop and online platform is there when during the COVID period. So we are not really that much affected by COVID when we move from physical to online. And the willingness of the people to adopt is a blessing. Although pre-COVID period, we are having difficulties from moving from physical platform into a digital platform. But during the COVID, it makes the transformation to digital area very, very easy. And then the good thing is we are still continuing doing that. And then another good thing is now, because of the problems that we have during the COVID period, some of the industries that our researchers want to work before. So for example, in terms of health, which has a lot of issues in data privacy, etc., are more willing to work with the university institution, research institution, to overcome the challenges despite the concerns on data privacy, which we have different people trying to address that. Okay, I think that's the end of my presentations. If you have further questions, you can email us on our email address, office.ieo, and then we do run a website which links to everything UNI platform, everything on our univision.ubd.pn platform. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Dr. Abbas, for the presentation. So I think one of the things that I noticed that the COVID-19 pandemic is not always a bad thing. So there is also a blessing in disguise, where you say that some of the things planned program has been expedited since the COVID-19. So moving fast to the online class and that sort of thing. So we can always find a blessing in disguise in any kind of unprecedented event. Thank you, Dr. Abbas. Please stay with us. Okay, the next speaker, the third, Dr. Barry Juliandi. Dr. Barry Juliandi is from the Department of Biology, IPB University. His doctoral degree is from Molecular Neuroscience from Nara Institute of Science and Technology, Japan. His research interests, including epigenetic regulation of neural stem cell differentiation, neurogenesis and memory, morphometrics, and human biology. Today, he's going to deliver a topic conducting joint research and publication with other universities, both local and international universities. To Dr. Barry, the time is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Adam. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. It is a great pleasure for me to be invited to this great event. Especially, I want to say thanks to the leader of the University of Balikpapan, Pak Rector and Ibu Mary, for having me, and also all the distinguished speaker, which is already also here. So this is a very broad topic, so I don't know whether I can do that in 30 minutes, but I will try. Let's see what happens later. So first, let me share the PowerPoints. I hope it already appears now. Okay. Does everyone can see this slide? So the topics is about how to make scientific network and project proposal. And I will get to the writing technique if possible. Networking is actually a skill. So you cannot do networking if you never try and fail and try and fail. So you have to entertain yourself with this kind of activity in your everyday life to get this skill. It's just like riding a bicycle, meaning The more you try, the more you can be expert on the networking. And there is a research result that says, actually, we live in a very small world. We live in a 6-degree separation, meaning everyone in the world can be connected as far as 6 space separation or network. Meaning if you want to contact someone, which is you never know in the US or in the Europe, actually you just need maybe 5 of your friends to reach the people that you want to contact or want to have the network with. So this is very surprising, but this is based on algorithm and also data from exact experiment using mail, and it is published in Science, that we can contact anyone in the world, and usually it takes not more than 6 people or network. So this is a kind of motivation for all of us that we can do networking very easy, actually, even though we never contact the people before. So I will give some tips that I hope beneficial for us, scientists, and the psychology behind the networking or connecting the people. First, the tips is we have to have trading value. Yeah, because networking is not altruistic or automatic. They need reason. They need reason why should be engaged with you. So you have to have value that you have to trade to them. And people usually very busy trying to advance their own career or interest. Then why they should concern with yours if you don't have that kind of value? So meaning we have to offer major value back to them. We have to offer them something that they need or they want to have their thinking also about our needs or interests. The second tips is we have to give realistic praise. So we don't say, I'm so impressed with you or you are amazing. This is kind of Indonesian style. We always give praise to foreigner that we say they are lovely, they are good, or they are handsome, or something else. But actually, scientists from abroad, especially prominent scientists, they really like if we talk about their work. So we can say, for example, I like your work published in this journal because in the figure that you show us that the data is very interesting, and I know the method is very sophisticated. I want to know more about, so talking about their work, something that really show that we take a homework before contacting them, that we know that they are working on something, and we just not guessing or asking them to show us what they've been doing in their research, for example. And we have to be real and be nice. That's an Indonesian gift. As an Indonesian, we how to say, genetically very nice, but not too cheesy to have that someone feel that it's not realistic compliment or praise. The third one is say why. Again, the reason is very important. Studies show that just adding the word because after the request increase the chance of the person complying by 33%. So for example, if you discuss using email or using Zoom or using any other media in this time of pandemic and COVID, you have to write because. So for example, I want to have a discussion with you next week because this is very important issue and I want to have more something with you. And this will add that someone that read your email or discuss with you to have more respond to your request. And if you writing email, put because in the last word of that email, because that because word can attract someone to reply immediately and give the good reason after the because. And number 4 is we have to ignore authority. So it is a temptation for the junior scientists to become a fan of prominent scientists. So we really honor the prominent scientists and we treating them like artists. But actually, this is a wrong attitude. Yeah, the real prominent scientist actually doesn't really care that you are become fan of him or her. But if you treat him like a colleague, real scientist, scientific colleague, and you can have a better position to discuss and deal with every issue with him or her, and he or she will have more respect to you if you treat him as a colleague. So you have to resist the pull of other people, authorities, to make you feel inferior. This is very important because I saw many of Indonesian feel this way and act this way if they engage with foreign scientists. The key to make you become a colleague and make them treat you as a colleague is that get them to feel that you equally have the same value or the same contribution to the project or to the thing that you both gonna do together. So, but as usual, we have to make this not to become disrespectful or we pose a threat to them because we behave about this authority. And number 5, it's the appeal to self-interest. We usually in Indonesia really like to talk much and talk about ourselves and bragging about me, how I'm going to do that, how I achieve this, I already have this one. We talk about ourselves. The key of networking is actually we have to discuss our opponent's problems. How about their patient? How about their general interest? Not just our own. We can say something about us if they really want to ask about that, and we can give several answers, but not always concentrate about us. So the more you encourage other people to keep focus the story or the conversation about themselves, the more they will remember you and will consider you in the future as a friends, because the conversation doesn't really show that you are egoistic and just talk about yourself or about your interest. So this is very important to build up a project, scientific project. For example, you really interested in insects, but the other person that you want to collaborate is actually do not really interest in insect, but more to the whole arthropod class. So meaning you have to shift your interest to have this collaboration. Then you have to equalize how to make the project and then the network will be going well. So the 6 tips, we have to lubricate with politeness. Every person in the world actually really like polite people. So say please, say thank you, stop and ask, how are you? And stick around to hear the answer. This is if we meet in the person. So don't ever have the hesitation to greet someone. You never know that you will be collaborate with him or her in the future. And start every new mail with a thank you. Then if a thank you again in the last sentence, if possible. And we can wish something. If we know their son or their daughter, we can wish their daughter or their son a good and happy holiday or happy birthday or something. Then it gives a personal touch. the email or to the relationship. The seventh tips is to mimic behavior. People really like someone who is exactly like themselves. So if you have a meeting with the person, you have to copy their body language. Maybe the person is very aggressive, have a very aggressive body language. Then you have to move like him also when you talk. But if the person is very calm, then you have to talk also very calm, because people who calm usually don't like people who talk very fast. So this meaning we have to adapt our body language, our manners, and speech pattern depending on the person that we are going to talk. Because again, people like people who are similar to them. And we have to know how to communicate. If you talk like me now, very aggressive and loud, this is a Sumatra people style. Maybe the Japanese people don't like my style because it's maybe considered very rude and not, not appreciating the opponent. So when I talk with Japanese people, usually I will be more calm and take my pace in the speaking. And number 8 is stay top of mind. So usually we have many ideas. If we meet in the seminar, in the symposium, we meet someone new, we discuss the idea. Believe me, the ideas will die unless you keep them alive. Yeah, I will contact you. We will, okay, I will have your number. We will discuss this idea. We will write the paper together, something. Then we are busy with our own things. Then what you need to do is you need to follow up. Offer and offer and offer again, but without being annoying. Please remember that the consistency to contact someone have to be equalized with this kind of annoying behavior. So you probably don't, you want to contact someone in the UK, for example, then you have to know the time. Is it the correct time in UK to send email, for example, or send WhatsApp, or to have a Zoom conversation? Because there are time differences between several area in the world, of course. So you need to know the specific time without being annoying. Or we can ask our potential partner or collaborator what time we should and what media they consider be the best one to contact them. And people don't remember anything on their own. They need a trigger or clue. So you can say something like, do you remember me that wearing batik when we last met? Or do you remember that we have a dinner in the restaurant or something? So you need to keep this kind of clues to make them remember who you are, because too many noise nowadays, especially now in the time of pandemic, many information is flying around and we just cannot keep track of them. Number 9, follow up in small dose. Networking is about following up in small dose. Don't put yourself in the pace that cannot be kept up by your potential collaborator. For example, because you are very busy, you want to ask so many things in one email or in one conversation. You say that first we need to do this, 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 to do this. And then you feel relief because all the things that you want to ask already given to your partner. But actually this is very bad, because then your partner can feel that they are stressed with this kind of huge response that they have to do. So you have to ask one question first, and then wait for the reply, and then ask the second question, second thing, third thing, and so on and so forth. So give in a small way, in the social media or in the Zoom or in other media, is actually also increase the possibility that your professional message is being responded. So for example, you text him in WhatsApp and he never replied, but then you know that he is very active in Facebook, then you can go to his personal page and put like button and comment, oh, this is a very good picture, and then how are you today, for example. I give you, if you're not busy, please take a look my personal message to you in WhatsApp or something. So follow up in small dose. Number 10, be enthusiastic about others' idea. Again, I stresses this one because a lot of scientists actually like to talk about themselves. So we need to pay attention to our partner interest also and what they want to do in this collaboration of this potential project. Everyone has idea about what they're passionate, and we can share each other brainstorming and then try to find the equilibrium between these different ideas. And number 11 is do your research. Like I said in the beginning, never reach out to new connection without researching their interest. Never take a look at their accomplishment first. You become a very how to say, annoying people to be in a conversation if you cannot have professional conversation with scientists, especially the prominent one. If we already know what they are doing and the paper, the patent, the innovation that they have, then they will be more engaging conversation and more fruitful conversation, and they feel that the conversation is very how to say, good for them to be engaged. So praising someone's work or effort is more powerful compared than praising someone's personality or intelligence. Number 12, ask question. So question is call to action. Like I said, in email, you have to put because. And then in the end, also you can ask question. So always put question in the end of email. So this will trigger that someone to reply your email. So this is a very good tips, and I practice it every time I wrote email to my collaborator or my friends. And if I put that some question about anything, even not about the project, even about something else, then it replied maybe immediately. And number 13, we have to kill the curse of knowledge. The more knowledge we have as an educator and also as a scientist, actually make us feel more important and like to talk about ourselves. And we feel that we clever enough or important enough not to respond email or callback from someone because we think that we are already important because we have a lot of knowledge. And also, if we are too smart or have so much knowledge, usually our explanation become less and less clearer. So if you can see the graph in the right bottom corner of my slide, so actually if you have knowledge in the beginning and increase, then your clarity of your explanation is become high and high and high. High and high, high. But then the more knowledge you have, then it goes back down, making your explanation become less clearer because you have the curse of knowledge. Number 14, tap into identity. People like to have or to identify someone which is similar to them, like the mimic behavior. But this one is like, for example, we talk to someone, oh, Pak Adam, nice to meet you. And where I come from, Pak Adam, for example. And Pak Adam replied, oh, actually, I'm from Sumatra. Oh, same with me. I also from Sumatra. Where are you? And we talk about something that bring us together, the same identity. It makes the conversation more, how to say, more related to each other because you have the same identity with your partner. So we can try to find this kind of identity that's similar one, and this kind of thing will make their brain fight to maintain positive view of you because you have the same identity with him or her. And this can be a talk in the dinner or in the over a coffee or something. And number 15, we need to keep a long antenna, meaning we have to read body language, whether that someone already feel bored or whether they feel we are already annoying, taking their time so much. We have to be sensitive and read body language. And timing is very important. We have to know the exact timing that should be consumed to talk about our business, especially with the very busy scientist or person. And don't be in such a hurry to have that everything that we want to say in the first instant, because you can how to say break the mood of the partner, because probably you fit him or her with so much information. Number 16, we need to have project confidence, not need. Never say to someone that you want to collaborate because you need something. For example, if we are in Indonesia and then we cannot do, for example, some molecular biology or some sophisticated technique, we say to someone in Japan or in Australia or in UK or anywhere, and say that this project need to be done because in Indonesia we don't have this sophisticated equipment or this method. Never say that. Build the project based on confidence, not need. So the first thing you have to do is prove that you don't need their help actually. But we believe that if we work together, what we can achieve is greater than if we separate. So this is very important because in Indonesia, people are very needy and desperate to pursue the project. So they cannot avoid this kind of conversation that they say, I need you, I need you, I need you. Remember, the project that built on needs is not long-lasting. And sometimes it can cause hierarchical problem in the future. But the project that built by confident that if we work by ourselves that we can do, but if we do it together, it can become greater impact and output, then it can have a long-term relationship. Confident in who you are and what you have to offer is the starting point of creating a strong connection. And I can finish here if we don't have more time, because I think I already consumed maybe 25 minutes of the time, and maybe we can discuss about how to make project proposal or publication later in the question and answer session, if possible. How about that, Pak Adam?
Yes, Pak Barry, you have 5 minutes left, if you can finish.
Okay, so I still have 5 minutes? Okay. So I just touch a little bit about the scientific project. So after we have a good discussion and talk with our potential partner, so we need to make a project proposal. So actually project proposal is a request, financial assistance to implement scientific project. As simple as that, a financial assistance. And why we need to write a project, scientific project proposal? To get money. And with this money, we can give our contribution to the understanding of the world, of course. And we can fund equipment, laboratory facility, fund students, sometimes even independency to attend meeting. And the second, and I think most important, is the indicator of external approval of your activities. if you have project or idea that never funded or never get someone funded your project, meaning you live in a shell where no one actually in the world thinks your idea or your project is important. Probably it's an indication, not necessarily true, but it's an indication. And number 3 is we can increase the number of scientific publication, and we have a track record that benefit our evaluation because we have some track record in the scientific project. And in some case, we can benefit our university because there are overhead or some management costs to that grant. Again, proposal writing is like a networking, it's a skill. Thus can be learned, but require practice. You can attend hundreds and hundreds of workshops how to make scientific project proposal or writing, but you will never achieve what you can achieve if you never do it or practice it. So never attend too many workshops, but apply what you learn into the practice of making the scientific project or writing. So the strategy is to check first the adequacy of funding agency requirement and program criteria, because every funding agency or funded agent have different mission. They have personal mission. For example, if the funded agency come maybe from Australia, they really like project that goes into the east of Indonesia. They also like women who become the main PI of the project. This is a very unique, criteria that actually sometimes being put in the term or criteria in the proposal or call. And if you have, for example, now with Europe funding project, you probably cannot find about palm oil, because they actually resist about palm oil in Europe. That kind of thing is you need to learn what are the funding agency mission and what are their interests before you apply. And good proposal have this kind of thing and these things actually no secret: effective communication, clear presentation, and convincing methodology, realistic budget, and so on and so forth. But the most important thing that lack in Indonesia is the exit strategy of the project's output, especially in this kind of pandemic situation. Exit strategy should be put to convince the funder that you will be able to have other scenario if your original project cannot be pursued. So how to start? First, find a role model. Study a good scientific project proposal which already funded by the funder that you will apply. Study that role model and write. And then submit. If fail, learn. Write, submit, learn. Write, submit, learn. Never finish and never stop. And number 3 is become a proposal reviewer. Because if you already learn how to become reviewer of a proposal, meaning you can see with their eyes as a reviewer into your own proposal. It's really helpful to write a very good proposal. And probably I will stop here, because in the other slide, behind this slide, is really technical into how to write the introduction, how to write the method, and other thing that maybe we can discuss later. Thank you very much, Mr. Adam.
Thank you very much, Dr. Derry, for a very enlightening presentation. So I think your topic comes in 2 parts. The first one is like how to improve our personal communication when dealing with others, understanding the cross-cultural differences. I think I have that experience in my own experience that someone came from Turkey contacted me for collaboration at 12 o'clock at midnight, and they don't realize that it's actually 12 o'clock in Indonesia. And then I told them, and then I said, Turkey is 4 hours behind us. So they really feel sorry for that. So I think it's a very great things that you convey to us. And other thing, I think I'm really agree with you, write, submit, learn, write, submit, learn. So I think the never ending and never give up things that I think will keep improvement on yourself. Thank you very much, Dr. Berry. Please stay with us to take the questions later. The last speakers, we have a little bit farther in another continent, Dr. Lawrence Bakker. How are you, Dr. Bakker?
Thank you, Adam. I'm quite good.
Yeah. Okay, so it's your turn for 30 minutes. Let me introduce you a brief introduction. So Dr. Lawrence Bakker is Associate Professor at the Department of Anthropology, University of Amsterdam. Earns his Ph.D. from Redbound University, Nijmegen. Correct me if I misspell it wrong, Nijmegen. His area of research is on governance, law, and justice, with a focus on land use, resource conflict, discourses of authority on non-state violence. Most of his research is focused on Southeast Asia, particularly Indonesia. So please, Dr. Lawrence, the room is yours.
Okay, thank you, Mas Adam. And well, good morning to all of you. As was just pointed out several times, time difference is quite a big thing in the world, and I'm actually 6 hours behind you. So I believe it's 4 o'clock in Balikpapan, but it's only 10 o'clock here. So for me, it's still early in the morning, basically. So thank you for the nice introduction, Mas Adam. As it is, I will not be talking so much about all the interesting things you mentioned, as I was asked to talk about teaching mostly. And I think that is actually quite an interesting subject, given the times that we're in. I was asked to talk about teaching, notably in relation to Corona. And I have to say, at my university, well, lots of things have been happening the past couple of months, which may or may not be the same as in Balikpapan and other universities in Indonesia. I know that in Indonesia, for instance, all the teaching has also moved online rather than stopped. And it might be interesting to see what sort of solutions have come to the fore in the different settings that we're in. So basically, let me give you a little bit of background and an idea. This is the faculty of the UvA that I work at in Amsterdam. The UvA is, well, it sometimes is the largest, sometimes it's the second largest university in the Netherlands. Depends a bit. At the moment, there are about 35,000 students, except of course that they're all at home. We have 5 campuses throughout the city, and this is the one for social sciences and law. I'm in the Department of Anthropology, which sits in social sciences. It is the, let's say, the main department of anthropology in continental Europe. So only the one in Britain, who have a lot more money, have a stronger reputation. But if it's mainland Europe, then the UvA tends to be #1. I'm lucky that I'm also next to the law department, because I like to make a combination of law and anthropology. That's what makes teaching and research interesting, I think. And so yeah, this is where we usually work. Except of course that at the moment we don't, because everybody is still working from home. So just a few words on what's been happening. As with you, I expect, we were just teaching ordinary courses until all of a sudden, in our case, late March 2019, we were informed that no, from now on, all the teaching needs to go online, campus is closed, but you need to continue working. That was not really a problem as such, because we already did a little bit of online teaching, and as it happened, our computer department was already negotiating a big contract with Zoom. So we had rather good Zoom facilities when this actually started. Then of course still it means that you need to change all your lectures and that you're talking to your computer instead of to a room of students, but that is something you will likely know about as well. Now there are a couple of other things that have made this different over summer. The first of those is that the 1st of September, so last month, the anthropology bachelor program went from being in Dutch to being in English. And that meant that we went from, say, about 80, 90 first-year students to over 200, which means that there's a lot more students all of a sudden. The other thing is that especially the UvA has been lobbying Dutch government very strongly to also have some form of on-site teaching. So let's say the more usual way of teaching and not only digital. And so far government has agreed to that, but no more than 20%. So that means that if you have a class of 200 students, you can only have 40 students in the classroom, basically. And on the one hand, that's inconvenient. On the other hand, it means that your class gets separated into different groups, which causes new problems for us. And actually, as of a few days ago, there are new measures again, which say that there can be no more than 30 people in a room, no matter what you're doing. If you're a restaurant, a university, a school, a theater, you name it, 30 people is the maximum at the moment. So on the one hand, we moved online. On the other hand, the university then made it, well, mostly online, except for partly on site. And we have far more students than we had when all of this started. Now that caused a couple of problems. First, and I guess you experienced that as well, before you taught online, most of the time there are classes which you give, which is about explanation, which is about you talking to the students. That's not such a problem to do online because you're doing just the same thing. But of course, there are also classes which are about having a discussion with students. That's possible online if it's a small class, but more difficult if it's a large one. And then, of course, there are all sorts of meetings, presentations, and so on, which all of a sudden move from offline to online. And what we're finding with that is that there is a huge distance to students in how things exist now. If you have a class of students in front of you and you ask a question, somebody will put up their hand and answer, especially if you don't, if as the lecturer you don't speak and you just wait for them to speak. If, however, they are also behind the computer, that closeness or that pressure to engage isn't there so much. So the difference is a lot bigger. The environment, if you like, is very, very different from when you're really in a room together and really working. And that poses problems to us, of course. How do you maintain people involved? How do you make sure that they pay attention? But of course, for students, it's also a hard thing. I think if you're a student, you need to sit behind your laptop for 4 or 5 hours in a day listening to lectures. That's going to be very boring. And that's also what we hear back from students. So that raises the questions, how do you do that teaching? You can pre-record it, of course. You can use a PowerPoint and put it with the text online so students can watch it whenever they want. You can do it live, like we're doing right now. That's a way in which we do a lot of teaching, and then we record it and then later on post it on the internet. But one thing that's also coming to the fore now, also now that we have so much more students, is that our students are in different time zones. Because as you can imagine, a lot of the students are from different parts of the world. But if you cannot travel, you're not in Amsterdam. So that means that if we have a class at 9 o'clock in the morning, yeah, it would be at what is it, at 3 o'clock in Balikpapan. But if you're in the United States, it's about 4 o'clock in the morning. So that's not very convenient a time to be present. So that means that a lot of classes needed to be rescheduled depending on where the students are to make sure that they can attend. In terms of exams, we also had quite some problems, particularly because the traditional exams, which have students sitting in a room, answering questions, writing on paper, are no longer possible. You can't have them sitting in a room and writing together, which meant that we had to move from such on-site exams to take-home exams. And I do not know whether take-home exams are used in Indonesia at the moment. I think they are, if I look at Mas Adam, who seems to be nodding. For us, we were using them for some time already, but usually only for second, third years. But now all of a sudden, first-year students also needed to take them. And the difference with us, at least, is that for take-home, they can use the books, they can use all the material they have. But that means that you need to ask completely different questions. And for first-year students who were preparing for ordinary exams, then all of a sudden had everything online, they feared that this would be a lot more difficult, and therefore they got all very stressed. And then, yeah, that raises the questions on how do you deal with all those stressed students. And it went well enough, but still it's a new problem that you need to find solutions to. For us, it meant that also parts of the exams actually moved more into essays, which means like writing a text, but also writing, if you have open questions, writing in a more essay form. And that we have some exams, notably for smaller groups, which we could have as oral exams via Zoom, for instance, or via Skype. But all of this was nothing really new, nothing really changing. It was just surviving, if you like, the change from going to real teaching to online teaching and finding a way to work with that. And that is pretty much how things happened in spring when all of this started, and in early summer, then with the summer break, and now that we're back. And now that we're back, of course, we have the first reactions from students. And basically what we hear from students is that they feel that they have too little contact with the lecturers and with their colleague students, basically, of course, because you don't meet in the building, that they get insufficient feedback, same thing, you don't meet, so there's much less interaction. We find that working via Zoom is hard to concentrate on, and I think I can understand that. If you sit behind the Zoom, you need to listen for all that time. It's really different from being engaged in a lecture room. Also, and that's also true, especially some of the older lecturers are not quite able to use Zoom or Skype or the technology that goes with it, which makes for very, well, how shall I put it, for not so good lectures, to put it that way. And then, of course, all of the students, at least with us, are quite stressed about making the year, about how they can come through it, particularly because most of the students take out a loan in order to study. So that means that, yeah, for them, it's quite important that they finish their studies on time. Now, so far, we've come up with a couple of changes, but these also hold dangers, especially for us as lecturers. We made the session shorter. Usually with us, a class is 2 hours, and there may be a break in the middle, but not necessarily. But quite often now, also because if you're teaching a class in a room, there will be questions, there will be discussion. There's a lot less of that if you're teaching via Zoom. So that means that overall, sessions have become shorter. I don't think that's really a problem. It basically means that because there's less interaction, as a lecturer, you need less time to bring across what it is that you're telling. And then particularly if you're also recording it and posting it online so students can look back at it or look at it at a later time, it means that they have the opportunity to engage with the material more often than when they're only in the lecture room and listening to you. A problem, however, is that it also means that now we are not lecturing to all students at once. I mentioned that we now have this system in which a small group of students can come to the campus, and I put in a small picture of one of our lecture rooms so that you have an idea what they look like. You see, this can easily sit 30 people with sufficient distance from one another. And it means that for the group that's there, it's a real lecture, and they really enjoy being there and having the experience of being at university again. At the same time, that lecture is being recorded because there's a camera in the ceiling, and that records what is being said, what's being discussed, and that recording will then be put online. The problem, however, is that that recording is not put online simultaneously with the moment when the lecture is taking place. So that means it only gets online after the lecture has taken place. And that means that for the 80% of students who were not at the lecture, for them to ask questions only happens after that. Which means that as a lecturer, you have to give the lecture, but you're not finished then. All of a sudden, there's a new extra hour or so for the students who were not there to engage and ask questions via Zoom. So that means that each lecture which you teach has become 50% longer than it was before. And that is a problem insofar that it means it takes extra time, whereas usually you do not get extra hours for this teaching. So this is something that is worrying for us as lecturers. At the same time, however, the idea is also that we notice how much students like this way of working. So it is a good thing that it is possible again to have a certain degree of of on-site real teaching. Now, several ways which we're trying to deal with this, especially because, as I said, we all of a sudden moved from 80 first-year students to over 200. Of course, for a general lecture in which you are talking to the students, explaining them things, it doesn't really matter whether there are 80 in the room or 200 or 1,000. If you do not need to talk to each of them individually, but you're just telling them things, then that's all the same. So whether that's in a room or online, also actually does not make so much of a difference. But again, as pointed out, we notice that it works a lot better if the sessions are a bit shorter. If it's not 2 hours in one go with discussion in between, also because the students tend not to ask questions so much, but rather if the sessions are shorter, more to the point, and this element of discussion is left out. That does, however, mean that now for the first year, we have more discussion sessions and more discussion groups. We already had those. Those were then taken by junior lecturers who would meet with, say, 20 students or so to discuss what was taught in the lecture. And then they would consider it both from questions and from going into the literature more deeply. But now it means that we have more of these sessions, and also because we have more students, we needed more junior lecturers. So in terms of employment, it's nice. But in terms of work, it means there's a lot more that needs to be done. Whereas at the same time, the funding that we have for teaching, it stays the same. So we need to do the same with less or the same money, actually. One of the ways in which we manage to do that is not to only have our own speakers and preparing our own classes, but also to have more guest speakers and also more international guest speakers. And I don't know, well, I expect that works the same in Indonesia. One thing that COVID has done has actually brought about this notion that it is quite easy to get in contact internationally and have these guest lectures from everywhere in the world engage online. Well, actually, this seminar is, of course, a very good example of that. You have speakers from various parts of the world all coming together while never even leaving their own house, probably. So we have more international speakers, which works quite well, which is appreciated by the students a lot also. We've changed the kinds of assignments that we're using, not so much in terms of no more testing, but rather different texts. And as said, we are focusing more on having them write and not so much repeat knowledge, as in the sense of, do you know what this author has said about these matters, but rather engage with it. And I'll return to that shortly to explain a bit more what we're doing now. But we also find that, of course, it causes a number of problems besides the issue of that it takes more time. For quite a few people, working from home is quite an issue, especially if they live in a small house or if they have, if they are living there with their entire family, which means that they may not have a room where they can sit quietly to do the teaching. It also may mean, of course, that when the schools are closed, that they need to look after their children, which means it takes a lot of time, which they would otherwise be able to use for their work. Many people also find, like students miss engaging with their colleagues. The same goes for staff. Of course, we can talk to one another on Zoom, but you need to contact somebody first. You need to see whether they're online and so on and all that. Whereas, of course, in the department, you just meet each other in the hallways or wherever. So all that contact from many people is gone. And it means that quite a lot of people are complaining about stress from working at home, missing the contact, missing the familiarity, losing the feeling that they're working in a university because they're never there. With that also comes the problem of not being told actually how to work online. In the Netherlands, what happened end of March was basically that we were told, okay, as of next week, everything goes online. With the ministry saying, yes, dear students, as of next week, everything is online. And the lecturers will figure it out. So basically, without any preparation, all of a sudden, we needed to move online. And I like that, I have to say, because then there's a crisis, so there's something you need to solve. That's interesting. But for those lecturers who are older, who never did anything with Zoom or with Skype, this was a real stressful thing. And for them, for many, it actually still is. And of course, what many lecturers also experience is that the distance to students is a lot larger. It's not the same. I just mentioned this notion of being in a classroom and asking a question. And as long as you look at students expectantly, somebody will answer at some point. But that is just so different from working online because there's not such a connection. And also, for instance, one of the last courses I taught, which was in April and May, that course was only online. And in the end, one of the students mentioned like, well, we really want to ask you because we heard about you, but we've never seen you. Is it really true that you are very tall? And I said, well, I'm about 2 meters tall. And they said, oh yeah, then it's really true. But then I asked him, yes, but actually, do you really exist? Because I've only seen you online. So it might be that you're just a computer program. But then they say, no, we really exist. It is a real difference, basically, in the sense that you are engaging with people who you never meet in real life. It's not really a problem, I think, but for many people, this feels as something that is really hard. And as said, one of the major issues is that quite often it takes a lot more time, also because you meet your students in different groups, because they're in different time zones, because of the ways in which the teaching is organized now, which means that people put in many more hours into the teaching than they are actually receiving for doing so. And of course, if you're putting in more time, that means you have less time for research or less time for your own life. And that, of course, is a problem to many people as well. Now, of course, there are several ways in which people are thinking about how we should be dealing with these matters. major things that have been coming to the fore are actually not so much completely new ideas, but older ideas, but kind of that have become kind of relevant right now. Students are not always as proactive as you might expect them to be, but you can make them that. For instance, one of the courses we have running right now has international students from many parts of the world who have, of course, have never seen one another because they're in this digital situation. We have introduced in this course actually a role for them in discussing the literature, discussing the lectures, and each time that a new lecture is taking place, they need to come up with 2 or 3 statements based on the literature they read on the lecture and on the lecture of last time. But they can't do it by themselves. They need to do it in a group. So the first time we organized the groups, we said, so you, and you're one group, do this discussion. Next time, you change, but you do that yourselves. And they're doing that themselves quite nicely now. They're having this digital community, if you like, all this interaction, which is taking place outside of the lecture. Interestingly, these things do not happen if we don't start it up the first time. And it makes sense, I guess, in the way that, of course, the university and the lecturers are supposed to lead the course. But it also means that for this, you really need to give students the possibility, or empower them, if you like to use that word, to contact one another, engage with one another outside of the meeting, and do this kind of work. Another thing which we have been making more important, and not for the first year, but for the second and third year, is for students to comment on one another's work. If students are writing so much, as they're doing right now, all these essays and so on, it means that as a lecturer, you need a lot more time to read all of it and to grade it. One of the ways in dealing with this is to have, for instance, if students need to write a paper for a course, is to have them write a first version, a second version, and have other students read it first, comment on one another's work, so that they can engage and see the work of others, but also learn from them, before it actually arrives at the desk of the lecturer. It works in 2 ways, we find. It means that we as lecturers have less work in commenting on earlier versions, but students appreciate it because they speak to their colleagues, and because, of course, for them, it means being engaged with the topic of the course, but not sitting behind the screen and listening to the lecture, but actually reading one another's stuff, discussing with one another on what they have written. And as such, it means that for the lecturers, it is less of an extra time overload, and for students, it is an interesting task to carry out. Something we're also looking into, and which we can do with smaller courses, is to have students not write the final elements, as in writing an exam or writing an essay for a grade, but actually giving a presentation in the end for a grade. If you don't have too many students, like say 15 to 20 for a course, then that works quite nicely. It means you can break it up in smaller groups of say 4 students in 2 hours, and you have them, that small group of 4 students join, you have them listen to one another's presentations, you have them asking questions, a bit like we're doing right now, and based on that and on the presentation, you give them a grade. Of course, that only works if they're not all doing an exam on the same topic, but it works if they can choose topics within a course. So for instance, in the 3rd year, the final subject which we have is a course which is on development. And within that, they are supposed to prepare a presentation on some element of development. And of course, that can be very broad because there's so much that is possible. So some people talk about the oil palm industry in Indonesia. Others talk about dams in Sudan. Others talk about the difference in welfare in the Netherlands, you name it. But it means you get very different subjects presented by different students, which makes it interesting to listen to, which also makes that they can't easily copy one another. But of course also makes it harder to grade because it's also very different. You can't say, okay, this is the model for the answer and this is what you need to do. And of course, it means that instead of sitting down for a day or 2 days grading the exams, you now need to sit down at least a day listening to presentations. But for a change, it's quite nice, we find, and effective. But you really need not to have too many students. And then, of course, as mentioned, making the lecture shorter is one way in which we find that it remains interesting for students, but also it remains possible for the lecturers to make sure that they're not putting in too much time, which they also need for other elements of the course. Now, the main thing that we're really working with is the change from those exams on location, which I think everybody knows, to the take-home exams. I mean, exams on location we usually only have in the first year where we have the really large classes. Also because for grading them, for checking the answers, that can be done by the junior lecturers who also do the discussion groups. And the reason that we do it in that way is that simply the time of a junior lecturer is cheaper than the one of a senior lecturer. So if you need to have a senior lecturer doing all the grading, it's a lot more expensive in terms of hours than when it's junior lecturers. But that can't be done anymore, simply for the reasons that we now need, we can't do tests on location. And I have to say, personally, I prefer take-home exams because on location you can test knowledge, but in take-home, of course, it's more interesting. You can see, have they read the text? Have they remembered what is being said? But do they also understand it? And can they actually apply what's going on? It's one thing if you ask, if you say like, well, there's this person who has a theory. What is the theory of that person? And the student writes it down. For an exam on location, that could be enough. But then, of course, you also want to know, yes, but do you understand what it means? Can you explain it? So maybe they can write an explanation of what it means. Or even better, can they actually apply it? Can they use a case in which they can illustrate how the theory would work? That takes more time to write, so that would not be possible to do in an exam on location, which for us by law is only about 2 hours. But for a take-home exam, they can be 24 hours, for instance, which means that they have time and that you can make such questions which require more detailed and complex answers. And of course, you also need to make more detailed questions because you know that they have their books and the PowerPoints and everything that you used in the course with them. They may actually even be sitting in the same room with all the and being in contact with their colleagues. So you really need to make sure that the questions are in such a way that they can't be that easily answered if they have not engaged with the material during the course. And that works quite well, I think. Students also find it interesting. I find that with the take-home exams, far fewer people fail than with exams on location. But that's probably also because, yeah, I said an exam on location, people can just come there and see and do it and try, and maybe not, then go home again. Whereas with take-home, if you start, yeah, it's going to take a lot of an effort. So then if you're making that effort, people try and finish it. And then also, even if the answers are more complex, it means that giving a good or a useful answer is easier in a way than with an exam on location, which is really about everything that's, that you have in your head. The problem with take-home we find is that even though they're more interesting, they're also more difficult to grade, simply because students give these long, extensive answers which may differ in what they're saying. And even though you have some ideas of what it is that you want them to say, You still need to read everything carefully, more carefully usually than with exams on location, because the questions are more complex. And that means you need to take more time for it. This year, we're also going to have junior lecturers doing the grading for the take-home exams. And I'm sure they can do that. But it means that we need to make more extensive models of how the answer should be considered and how it should be graded. So that element, although it is better for the students, means it's more work for the senior lecturers if you're not grading it yourself. Now, and basically just to illustrate, because I guess this is something that most of you will also do, but just to give some ideas of what we mean by the difference in questions. A question like this for us would be a take-home question for a course on development, a second-year course. And the question that we had here was, some people argued that big institutions like the World Bank and even large development NGOs are not that effective anymore. That now it's up to more small, private groups or private people to bring development. Well, then we ask, okay, some NGOs are very active in this, critical about it. So refer to 2 articles, one by Elbers and Schulpe, maybe one by Aderadlet or Moyo. So they have 3 articles to choose from, and explain where the ECO, which is an existing NGO, is ready for today's development world. And then, of course, they can also argue that ECO, that NGO, is not ready. But it means, of course, that they need to have read the article, perhaps also some of the other articles. And then they need to think about how to formulate the answer and put it in maximum 400 words. And we like questions like the B questions. It's your phone rings. It's the World Bank. They learned that you took this course and now want you to give them a definition of success for World Bank development in the world of today. Basically, that means that from the class which we had on the World Bank, they need to have some understanding of what the World Bank does, how people working in the World Bank think, how they consider success within their framework of projects and activities, how that would relate to their own understanding of what success and development would mean as they took it from the course, and then, of course, explain why they give that answer. It's one of those questions which don't really have a wrong answer because it's about what the student thinks. But of course, it can still be a question for which they get no points if they can't give a proper explanation, if they can't explain why the definition of success which they put forward would be suitable for the World Bank. If they say like, well, the World Bank should be taking success as people like the outcome. Point. End of answer. That would not be a good answer because it doesn't explain anything. It's just an opinion. Other things which we're doing is, for instance, this is an essay assignment which we just did last year also. Students need to watch a movie, and this is for a course on structural violence, which is in the minor in the 3rd year. The movie is called Once Were Warriors. It is on internet should you want to watch it. It's not a happy movie at all, but it is really interesting if you're studying structural violence. Basically, they're supposed to watch that movie, look at how structural violence comes to the fore in that, what it means, how it is depicted, and use some theory again, this time articles by authors called Galtung and Shepherd-Hughes, and analyze what's going on. And all of that needs to refer to scenes in the movie, it needs to refer to the theory. It should not be more than 1,000 words, and it should be handed in for us to read and consider. This is a lot of work actually for students to do, because it's a movie that has structural violence in various forms and various layers, so they need to define where it is, why they see it in that way, they need to relate it, which means they need to understand the theory. And then of course, if you can only use 1,000 words, that means you need to be quite cohesive in what it is that you're going to say. So I think I'm running towards the conclusion of all of this. What's happening with us at the moment? We find it, well, most lecturers are coping reasonably well. All classes are continuing so far. No class as yet has been stopped because it could not be taught because of COVID. that's also in part because both the university and the Ministry of Education have said that, well, teaching should take priority over research at the moment, which means that organize your teaching. Actually, we just before had a speaker considering how promotion is taking place within the university in Samarinda, Universitas Mulawarman, the different ways in which lecturers are being ranked and how promotion is being attained. For us, that's pretty much the way in which it's been described. In that case, you need to have a number of publications each year. You need to be good at teaching and all these things. But right now, publication is put a bit less important. And I mean, speaking for myself, I'm working really hard on publications because I rather like doing that more than teaching. But I know that many of my colleagues are really focused on teaching only at the moment. So what is new in the way in which we teach? Initially, not so much. In March, it was really making do. It was surviving in what was happening. But as it is happening now, there's much more discussion, much more emphasis on discussion by the students in groups. So outside of the class, outside also of the digital class, but amongst themselves via Zoom, via Facebook, whatever they want to use. We have students much more engaging with one another's work. So the focus is less on the lecturer as a central figure to listen to, but more on the lecturer as kind of a manager of the course and giving different tasks to students and different people and making sure that they do things rather than only listen and focus on the lecturer. I pointed out the problem of the more time that online teaching takes. Some people are dealing with that better than others. But it's already clear by now that we're not going to get more hours for teaching, which basically means that you really need to do your work within the allotted time or put in extra time by yourself. And as it happens, our rector recently came with the idea like, well, this online teaching is actually quite interesting. Maybe we can go on and do this more often. And of course, in the ministry, it's also being talked about doing more online teaching, of course, because it's cheaper in certain ways. But both staff and especially students are very much protesting against that, pointing out that it doesn't work in the same way. It's more stressful, it's less engaging and so on. And you learn a lot less from it as a student. So at least our rector has stopped talking about it for the moment. But yeah, that doesn't mean that it's off the table as a plan. So I think this is pretty much what I wanted to tell you about. This is what's happening in Amsterdam in terms of changes into teaching, in terms of COVID, how we think we can make it better in the different ways in which we're now engaging the students and having them work independently, and how we are both using online teaching, but also experiencing the limits that it puts on what you actually can do as a lecturer. So thanks very much for listening. Thanks very much, Adam, for moderating. I think this is pretty much what I wanted to tell you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Lawrence. So I think I'm sure that participants get a lot of new insights from you on how to cope with this situation during online class teaching and learning. But for sure, I think one of the things that I think I will practice from your topic is shorten lecture time must be, and doing variation in the test method. Also, one thing that I want to add, that the problems that you mentioned, I think we have a distinctive problem here since all the students were sent home back to their hometown, and some of their hometown was actually in remote area where there is no internet coverage. So those are the things that we need to put more special policy on that. They had to go going up into the hill to get 1 bar of internet connection. So those are another additional things that we face here. So thank you very much, Dr. Bakker. Please stay with us for questions and answer sessions. Thank you. Okay, now let's move to questions and answer session. To Prof. Rudy, I noted one question from Miss Wati. I think she was interested in seeing whether or not there is some differences. It's probably a little bit about gender-related things, whether or not there is a different performance on male or female performance on research, probably in forestry departments. Maybe it is related to male, is more doing field research in the forest than female in terms of that, probably. This, Prof. Rudy.
Yeah, Pak Adam. So I think I have two questions. One that already informed by Pak Adam and other from Ibu Indrayani. Yeah, for Ibu, I forget the name.
Miss Wati.
Miss Wati, yeah, okay. Yes. So actually, as I described here in this presentation and also in my slide, is not my research. But when I talk about the indicator performance of university, that is the regulation that just released by government of Indonesia. So right now we have to consider about that. Not only working as our usual business, but we have to fulfill the requirement condition on that to get a good performance of our university, our study program, and also for ourselves. So related with the second question about perform, so I think it depends on the situation in the local institution. For instance, in my faculty, I have to inform that from the point of view of research activities right now, of course, the number of female lecturers still lower than male. But most of the female researchers and lecturers that we have, they are really focused on their lab activities instead of the field activities. But for the publication, as far I think for research and publication, the number of publications produced by the female lecturers, quite good. Based on the percentage of the female lecturers compared to male, I think. So they are very active. Even we have only one professor on that. And I think I would also, Padam, I would like to address my comment to Ibu Indrayani too. So actually, in the beginning of my slide, I tried to just to explain about the situation that currently have by University of Balikpapan, because University of Balikpapan is Balikpapan is my hometown. I was there till my high school. I was graduated from SMA Negeri 1 Balikpapan. So for me, University of Balikpapan is my second university, because I'm very familiar with the activities there. That's why my message is we have to consider and pay attention on that. We have to work to increase the level of University of Balikpapan. Only that, the information that I would like to show without any attention. And the second one, I got a question from Ibu Indrayani about the, yes, you are right that Faculty of Forestry, one of the oldest, the eldest faculty in Mulawarman University. But I think the number of professor, I think is still normal compared with other. For instance, University of Gajah Mada, Faculty of Forestry, they have 60 faculty with among them 15 professor among them. And then for Unmul, for Mulawarman, we have 67 faculty member, and with 16 of them are professor. So Hasanuddin, they has 48 faculty member with 13 professors. And then for Untan and Lambung Mangkurat in Kalimantan, ULM, they have 27 faculty member with 7 professors among them, and then Untan with 48 faculty member with 6 of them are professors. So I think, of course, I agree with you. To be a professor, not on, I mean, professor is not the like can handle everything they need. So of course, similar with other professor level, I mean, from the associate. So right now, all of this lecturer have to have a like research roadmap for their own self. For instance, me, I have my research roadmap. So within this research roadmap, I have some work, and I try to find the budget from them. So I invite my student to do my research based on my guidance. Yet I also support them for the funding and also for the publication. So I think in the modern way, so we never only get achievement from the student. So please remember what this in the normal and modern way, as also I did as far. So Pak Berry also will give some comment on that, because Pak Berry graduated from Nara, and also in my case I graduated from Kyoto. So basically professor role very important way on the improving of the skill and also knowledge of the students. So in terms of this, I never ask my students to do their own research. So mostly they did something that I arranged in my roadmap research, and I fund them by the budget. I mean, I prepare the budget for them. So that's why most of them can do their research as well as my plan. And for the publication, I think, in my case, so, and others professor did, I think, we, as I mentioned, so important to promote your student by putting their name and also ask their contribution for the publications, even just for a very minimum input. But the important thing is we can give them achievement on the recognitions, especially on the global indexing system. So in terms of this, by using that recognition, they can easily get the scholarship. So based on my experience like it. So for to giving your special advice to easy submit my paper, I think we have a Dr. Berry too. But in my case, so we started from the easier one. So it will be clear after we check the publication, the manuscript, and after that the idea on that, and we can decide it. The level of publication could be submit to the for instance the indexing publications level, the Q4 or others, Q1 publications. So I agree, the publication is not, I mean, everything. But please consider that right now the governments already changed their basic assessment or evaluations, whereas the performance will be give more values instead of others spending of our money as well as we have right now in our activities. So that's my comment, Padam.
Thank you very much, Prof. Rudy. Now, to Dr. Abbas, I think one question that you have already answered just now on the tips for getting partnership with university or other industries, whether it's NGO, small, medium enterprises, and community. Would you add a little brief tips on that?
Hello?
Hello, yes, Dr. Abbas.
Yes, sorry. Okay, so the question is on the second one, the second question, right? Tips on collaboration between, so collaborate with industry and how about universities? Is there collaboration between universities, and how to collaborate with industry so that it's easy for the industry to accept the idea of collaborating with universities? So generally similar, so So the first question is talking about inter-universities collaborations, universities and universities. So generally, I think researchers agree. Researchers agree that it's very important in doing research, inter-universities collaboration, which allowing us to share resources, basically. So that's the idea behind inter-universities collaborations, to share perspective and to increase impact, etc., etc. There's a lot of reasons why universities collaborate, right? Similarly, in Brunei, UBD also encourages inter-universities collaboration, not only between universities in Brunei. Granted, we only have like 3 main universities and a few higher education institutes, but also with our regional partners, regional international universities. We have a lot of collaboration with other international regional universities. I think when we talk about university collaboration, right, it's generally somehow easier to establish. I think because universities, we come from the same background, so it's easy for us. We have this share the same perspective, so that's why it's easier for us to collaborate between universities. But in contrast, university industry collaboration may be a bit difficult to establish. Sometimes the culture is not there yet. From the perspective of industry, right? I think university is often seen as ivory tower. So we are disengaged from the real world and from the society, and specifically from the problem the industry is facing. But from the perspective of university researcher, they have the opposite view. So the industry do not know and do not understand research. So our role, our office role, effectively as industrial liaison. So we have to work with both parties. We have to work with the industry side. We also have to work with the researchers side. So we need to be diplomatic in our dealing. So normally, right, it takes time to develop rapport with industries. For us, we need to see the problems from the industry's perspective. So normally, right, for when we approach industries, of course, we try to understand the problem, try to propose different solutions for them to do research. We usually start very small. So, of course, university researchers have to do research. So maybe normally we start by requesting industry problem only and giving the problems to our undergraduate and master student. So giving the problem doesn't cost, it's easier for the industry rather than giving money. So they give us the problem, we part it for our undergraduate and master students. So it's benefit both sides. So the industry is getting the problem solved, and the university, although we don't get any money from solving the problem, we make our student more industry ready, which is one of the objective of the teaching anyway, right? Teaching, one of the objective of university is to make our student industry ready. From that one project, the undergraduate or master level project, we start to develop mutual trust. So it should be easier for us to develop it into bigger project. So with industry funding in the future. Another way we usually do, because we have, I'm sure every country have it, every universities have access to different funding agencies. So normally these different funding agencies encourages industry collaboration. So we utilize this funding from other funding agencies, but to solve real industry problem. So it's like the industries is contributing the problem and maybe some manpower, and university is contributing the intellectual development. We are contributing the student punya atau. So once that one small project becomes successful, that develop relationship, that develop rapport with the industry. So meaning the industry now see us as a partner. So this person, this university, this researcher are able to solve our problem, can work with us. From there, we can work into a more bigger projects. So I think, yeah. So itu kan macam working with industry from our experience in Brunei, it's very tough lah. It's very tough at first. It requires a lot of patience to develop because industries are more interested in solving the now problem, but researchers, the future problem. So we have to meet in the middle somehow. But from our experience, I work with a lot of industries in Brunei. The payoff, it's quite a satisfaction for researchers to see the research translation of what they did in the research into valuable things. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Abbas. So still have a question to Dr. Berry and Lawrence Bakker, but I think we'll just email you since it's already 5 p.m. here in Balikpapan, so it's a very limited time. So I'll just send an email to Pak Berry on my question, so I can ask a question in my email, so he must reply my email. Okay, it's end of our webinar. It concludes our webinar, and really appreciate for all guest speakers, Prof. Rudianto, Dr. Emer Abbas, Dr. Berry Julianto, and Dr. Berry Juliandi, and Dr. Lawrence Bakker. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time for being with us this afternoon. I'll see you again in another webinar for participants. Thank you very much to join until the end of this webinar. Thank you. Selamat sore. Terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much.
Terima kasih Pak Adam, terima kasih Pak Rektor, terima kasih Pak M. Pak Berry, terima kasih. Salam kenal Pak.
Thank you so much, Pak Rudi, Pak Berry, Dr. Warren,
Terima kasih
and
Bu
Dr. Abbas.
Pak Abbas, terima kasih.
Izin leave. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam.
Give Yan hand.
Pak.